Here's, hey Raquel, if you guys are here, say hi, happy Monday. Okay, so here's the biggest secret that I feel like nobody is talking about in the coaching industry, but I think that is so important and that I see so many of the like amazing women that come to me and not work with me struggling with, which is that they're generating a lot of revenue, right? But that they're never making or they're never keeping most of it. So they're making a lot of money and they're not keeping most of it, right? I think that this industry can kind of be one of those places where you can endlessly spend, right? Like the online space, there's always something new to invest in, something new to learn, something new to figure out, like more money you can spend on ads, more money you can spend on tech, more money you can spend on your website, more money you can spend on team, more money you can spend on coaching, more money you can spend on courses, more money that you can spend in every way. And listen, all businesses are like this to some extent, for sure. But I think like in our industry specifically, it's like right in front of you. It's so easy to kind of just hit like buy from behind your computer screen, right? And so I know so many women that whether they've been in business for a long time or are newer in business are spending and never actually making that return on investment, never actually taking it home, never actually seeing that come to fruition. And again, I know this is not like the sexiest thing to talk about, but it is so freaking important because this is how you stay in business. This is how you stay sustainable. This is how you build a business that you actually love and that actually serves you. When you're like hustling all the time to not take home profit, you're going to burn out and you're going to go back to corporate because at least you're taking home profit, right? You're going to go back to that 9 to 5. You're going to get sick of your business because you are in this business to not only do work that fulfills you, but to make money for it. And so I don't want to just talk to you about how to make money, although that's really important. I'm all about that. Get in my sales mastermind if you want to do that. But I want to talk to you about how to keep your money, how to keep the money you're making, how to invest really wisely. Because again, like this space will lead you to believe that like investment is always something you should say yes to. And that you should always invest more and more and on higher and higher and higher levels. I don't think that's not true, but I don't think it's always true, right? I think you need to make the right investments. I think you need to make smart investments. And I think you need to make sure you're keeping your money. So that is something I want us to talk about today. Something I would love to hear from you guys first, because I think this is really interesting and important. And it's, again, not something that we talk about or ask a lot in this industry, which is like, what's your goal for take-home cash? Can you guys tell me that if you're watching? You know, just drop it for me in the comments. But what is, I had to adjust my heating pad. What is the goal for cash that you want to take home? And so I'm not just talking money you want to make, I'm talking cash you want to take home each month, right? Because 10K of money made is very different than 10K of money taken home, right? So tell me that in the comments. Tell me, what amount do I want to take home cash-wise? What's my goal around that? Okay, cool. I want to know because it's going to be important, I promise. So even if you're watching the replay, I want you to type it in, write it down, like this matters. What is your goal for cash you want to take home? Or just say hi to me. But either way, let me know. Okay, so the reason I want you to look at that is because I want you to realize that like only a percentage, that's only a percentage of what you need to make, I guess is how I want to say it, right? And so sometimes we set a goal like 10K months, but it's a percentage of what we need to make. And then we're spending a lot of money, whether that's to get to 10K, to get to 50K months, whatever it is, we're spending a lot of money to get there. And like, it's not balancing out very well. Does that make sense? So this is something I work with a lot of my clients on that come to me that have been in business for a while and are further along and are saying like, hey, I want to make more money. And I'm like, cool. Like, what does that mean? And we talk about like, what is their goal of take home, right? What cash do you want to take home? Because if there's no point in you making more money if your expenditures just goes up with it. We want to figure out like, how can you be taking home more money? Ariel says 100K month take home, beautiful, right? So like the thing is that like, it would be easy to be like, my goal was 100K, but if that's what I want to take home, then my goal needs to be higher than that, right? And so one of my clients, we literally got her taking home, I think like 3K extra a month just by cutting expenses of stuff that she like didn't need, which, you know, 3K, like depending on where you are in your business, either seems like a really big deal or not a big deal, but to just do that by cutting out unnecessary expenses is huge. Like we're talking bleeding 3K a month on stuff you don't need to be bleeding money around. That is a big freaking deal, right? So again, I want to hear what your take home goal is. And then I want you to think about the fact that, yeah, I got to make more than that. And I know that this can seem unmotivating, but I'm going to give you some great tips around it. And I'm going to tell you why this is important to you. Because when you're building your business, you have choices to make along the way about where to invest, what to invest in, that kind of stuff. We're going to talk about how to do that right, especially like from the beginning, right? So that you don't get into one of those situations where all you're ever doing is investing and never reaping the reward from that investment, right? Ariel says, love this combo. Thank you, girl. Thank you for sharing your number too. I really appreciate that. So you don't want to be in one of those situations where all you're ever doing is making more to reinvest, making more to reinvest, making more to reinvest, because you're never actually getting the reward from that. Right? So this reminds me so much. Rachel says 7K a month, beautiful. So that is so useful because then you know, cool, I need this to be a percentage, right? And I'll talk to you about how we can figure that out too in just a minute. Thank you, Rachel. Okay, so what was I saying? Oh, my brain sometimes. I promise I've had a full Monday. Okay, so the thing I want you to think about is like, when am I going to start reaping the rewards? So what it reminds me of is like, you know how some people are just like totally scared to receive money and to charge. And so they never sell. You know, they're not putting offers out. They're not pitching. They're maybe discounting their services all the time. Like, I think that's a certain type of mindset, right? I work with clients all the time with that mindset. Like they come into my sales mastermind with that mindset a lot, which is like, it's really hard for me to receive that, right? To charge for things. However, a lot of my one-on-one clients come to me with a somewhat similar but different mindset challenge, which is like, I can make it, I can create it, but it's really hard for me to hold on to for me, right? So it's like two sides of the same coin in a way, which is like, it's really hard to let myself receive. It's hard for me to hold space for that money. It's hard for me to hold on to that money. It feels weird to hold it and receive it and let it stick around and not like reinvest it or need it to go to something else. It's like, either way, it's kind of a scarcity mindset. Well, it's not kind of. Either way, it is a scarcity mindset. In one sense, you're not making any, and that's how you're kind of staying in scarcity. And another, you're making it, but you're not letting yourself keep and receive and enjoy it. And so both things kind of have this scarcity attached to it. They just look different. One, you can kind of hide and keep to the side a little bit more. And it's why I said it's the biggest secret, because I just think nobody's talking about this in our industry. Like nobody is talking about like, what's your take home? What's your bottom line? What are you keeping? What's your percentage of cost on the money that you're making? And so we have brilliant, high achieving, high performing women working their effing butts off and not getting to reap the reward, not getting to receive that, not getting to enjoy it, not getting to take it home. And I want to start talking about this so much more because I really, really want to take a stand, one, against that happening, and two, against that being so like, I don't know, just so not talked about, something that like happens behind the scenes, but like nobody's saying, right? Because it's important to talk about it because it's how we stop it from happening. It's important to talk about it because it's how other women that are starting their businesses don't come in and experience that same thing. So here we go. Diane says take home 10 to 15K. Beautiful. I love this. So you guys are going to love that you know this number because it's going to help you a lot in setting your goals and in setting your spending and your investing goals. So we're going to talk about that too. So, okay. Spending but never making is kind of like what I would say the big thing is for me. So we're spending and investing and never reaping the reward, or like we're willing to spend, but we're not willing to like make and hold on to, right? So I can create the money, I just can't let it come to me or keep it because I feel like, this isn't everybody, but this is the majority. I feel like this major sense of FOMO that like I'm always going to be missing out on the next thing, that I always need to invest in the next thing, that if I keep this, my business will die. If I stop investing, things are going to happen, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? And so it becomes almost this like compulsive thing where it's like we make, we invest, we make, we invest, we make, we invest, right? And it becomes this habit where it's like, when is your investment going to pay off for you though? Like when is enough for at least a moment so that you can reap the rewards? And listen, it sounds like I'm making a case for not investing, and I'm not at all. Clearly, my business is literally built on people investing in themselves. A majority of the success I have had in my business has come from my willingness to invest both in myself, in my personal development, in coaching, in team, all of that. What I am very clear about is that I'm about making the right investments, not all of the investments, right? And that's what I want to really like impart upon you guys today, is that investing is amazing. Investing helps your business grow so much, but investing can become an obsession, or it can become, let me think, it can almost become like the magic pill, where like because it gave you results, you think you have to keep doing it no matter what. And that as soon as you stop, results stop. And that's not how it works, right? Hey, Amber. So I come from my mom's side of the family, a family of all entrepreneurs. Like everyone on her side of the family, she's one of four, own their own businesses. And my grandfather owns several businesses, right? And you know, they all started businesses like pre-internet. My grandmother definitely did. And you know, here's what he had to do, right? He had to go to the bank, take out a loan, work his fucking ass off for years until he started seeing a return on that and started paying it back, right? Now, here's what I want to say about that. That is why I believe in investing. I truly believe you have to spend money to make money. And I think that it demonstrated his belief that he was willing to like go take out that loan, work his little tush off, and then like reap the rewards of that for years to come. However, what he didn't keep doing was getting another loan, getting another loan, getting another loan, getting another loan, also getting another loan. And that's kind of what we do in this industry, where it's not that we're always getting the next loan. We're not letting our investments work for us. We're not letting them pay off. So he made the investment, he got it to pay off. Does that make sense? And then as his business grew, he made more and different investments, right? He added team, he added space, all of that kind of stuff, product, right? But it's like he had a finite amount to work with, and he had to work it until that paid off. And that's what happens in this industry, is we don't take that mentality. Does that make sense? Caitlin said, oh my God, yes, I've invested a ton in courses, coaching, branding, and I realize now I have to take action on what I learned and not overwhelm myself with more, needing to put into action what I already invested in. Girl, that is perfectly said. That is exactly what I meant, right? Which is like, we keep going instead of letting it play out, letting it work for us, letting our investments make us money, right? So I think that's especially true excuse me, with things like courses, right? It's like we're already buying the next course before we've even finished the one that we're on, right? Katie says the right investments on all the investments. Exactly. I'm in my first big coaching program right now, and it's starting out so strong and powerful. It's making me a tiny bit nervous for when it ends. Needed to hear this. Good. Yes. Yes. Love this conversation. Thank you, Christina. So strategic investment, the right investments, that is it. But again, when it's like something like, I'm not picking on courses, I just think it's one of the things that it happens with the most, is like we're already investing in the next thing before we're even finishing this thing. Like I've had 2 clients recently. One of them is working with me one-on-one, and she came to me and was like, hey, I got invited to this mastermind. Like, what do you think, kind of thing? And we talked about it, and like, it just doesn't make sense for her right now. Like she needs to finish playing out this investment. Like she needs to put her energy, attention, and focus here and see it play out. And she is seeing it play out, which makes her want to invest more, because she's like, oh my God, this was such a good investment. Of course, it makes sense to keep investing. And that's how they get you. And I don't mean they. The person that invited her here is not a bad person by any means. I just mean they as in like the proverbial investment fairies, right? That's how they get you, is that it's like, well, that investment worked, so let me keep going faster, faster, more, better. Instead of like ebb, flow, let me see this play out. So personally, I am such a huge fan of coaching OBS. Like I think coaching has skyrocketed my business. I think I have helped so many clients in such massive ways because of one-on-one support, like all about it. And there have been plenty of times in my business where I didn't have a coach. Like I don't have a coach right now. There's nothing wrong with that, right? It is not a strategic investment that makes the most sense for me right now. When it does, I'll make it, right? So this is permission that I want to give you, which is like, you don't always have to have a coach. You don't always have to be learning the next thing. You don't always have to be in a course, because if you do that and are not strategic with your money, you will end up in the cycle of making it but not keeping it, of generating money but not holding on to money. And that is not something I want for you guys, because again, it's the thing that will make you walk away from your business. It's the thing that will make you burn it to the ground and be like, fuck it, it's not worth it. I'm working all the time and I'm never reaping the reward, right? So when I say like investing, making the right investments, here's what I want you to think about. Most people are not strategically making investments based on solving the right problems, okay? Hey, Amelia. Caitlin says yes, yes, yes. So appreciate this. Thank you, Caitlin. So most people are not making investments based on solving the right problems. So here's where I'm investing the most in my business right now, is in team, because that solves my biggest problem right now. So you guys know I mostly focus on one-on-one, right? It's like my zone of genius. It's my thing I love. I always like to preface this with like, I do not strongly believe that that is the best or only business model. I do know very strongly what works for me and my personality. Cool, cool. Okay, so I have a very high one-on-one focus. I do intensives. I do a 3-person mastermind, one-on-one, and retreats. Like I am small group, one-on-one. The downfall of that for me is that it takes time, right? Like I am the commodity there. Again, not that it's perfect. It definitely is perfect for me for right now though. Cool. So I need to figure out how to solve the right problem in my business. So that's why I invest really heavily in team right now, because my problem right now is time and capacity. Team helps me continue to solve time and capacity. For me to have a coach right now doesn't solve my time or capacity issue. Does that make sense? When I have an up level issue, or when I'm trying to go to that next level, or when I decide that I want to like launch something new, or I'm feeling stuck, or I'm having a bunch of mindset stuff, or suddenly I'm hitting an income plateau or whatever, coaching makes total sense as an investment, right? When I first started out, I invested right off the bat in a one-on-one coach with money I absolutely did not have. And it absolutely paid off and was such an amazing choice. However, it solved the right problem for me at that time, which was like getting myself out there, self-belief, learning about this industry, growing, stepping up in a new way, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? So this is one of the ways to make a good investment, is to know what your biggest problem is in your business right now. So I know this is sort of a personal question, but I would love to know, if you're watching, do you know what the biggest problem is in your business right now? And I use the term problem loosely, like it might just be a challenge. Like my problem right now is time and capacity. It's like a problem, not a problem, right? Nothing's wrong, but I know what I need to solve for to keep growing. So tell us right now, if you don't mind, I know it's kind of personal, what is the biggest challenge or problem in your business right now? I would love to know, because then I want to like give you some feedback around like, cool, so what might make sense then, right? Kate says, yes, solve the right problem makes all the difference. For sure, and most people overinvest solving the wrong problem. So we're going to talk about that in a minute, right? Caitlin says her biggest problem is finding clients. Ariel says, yes, I do as of today. Thanks, Lacey. My pleasure. Love you. Christina says, time. I don't get much time without my kiddos. A lot to juggle all at once. Awesome. Cool. So Caitlin, finding clients, right? So coaching might be a stellar fit for you, because you're trying to figure out and navigate, like, how do I find the right clients? What way do I work with them? That kind of thing. Now, what someone else could say, and what can get hard, is someone could be like, well, ads, Facebook ads are totally the right fit for you, Caitlin. If you want to find clients, you need to put money into Facebook ads. And so here's what I would say to that. Maybe. Do you have a funnel that you know works? Do you have a sales process that you can funnel people through that you know works? Do you already have something that's organically working so that you can leverage ads the most? And like, this isn't like a should Caitlin use or not use ads kind of question, but what I'm trying to show you here is that even when you know your biggest problem, there are still like several questions underneath that layer of like, cool, what makes sense? What makes sense? What's the real problem? What's the real problem, right? So like finding clients is top level. If you have a funnel that's working, it might be just getting more people in the door. If you don't have a sales process that's working yet, it 100% might be coaching support to hammer that out. Does that make sense? But a lot of people will do a couple things. One, they'll take a course and then maybe they don't totally see the results there. So then they'll try some ads and it's iffy. Then they'll get coaching and like none of it's fully working and they're not fully playing any of it out. So they're spending a lot. They just bought a course, they paid for ads, and they bought a coach. And they're like, what the hell? I'm investing, and I'm not seeing the result, because they didn't ever really solve for the right problem. Does that make sense? So Christina says, time, I don't get much time without my kiddos, a lot to juggle all at once, right? So Christina, like yours might be team, right? Again, I would have questions like, is it a mindset thing? Do you have a good strategy? All of that stuff. Maybe coaching would solve that, or maybe team solves that, right? Like maybe you know exactly what your strategy is, exactly what you're doing, and you need another set of hands to help you execute so you have more time. Beautiful. Then you know what to solve. Do you see how this is? Where Christina could be like, cool, I need more time, so I get a coach. Then I hire a team. Then, and it becomes like this investment that never ends. And listen, your business is an investment that never ends in a way. Like I've not had a single month in my business where my expenses were zero. Let's say that it's 100% an investment that never ends. But you want to be seeing the rewards from those different investments. Does that make sense? Amelia says, I haven't had any clients sign up yet, even though I've had my discovery calls go really well and I have my specialist niche. Cool. So Amelia, coaching might be the right fit for you, right? You may want someone to walk you through your discovery calls, figure out where your sales process isn't converting, that kind of thing, right? But thank you for being brave and sharing that. Here's a perfect example. Amelia could go, well, I haven't had a client sign up yet, so I'm just going to put a lot of money towards ads. And then she spends a shit ton of money on ads. She still has a problem with her sales process or her discovery calls, and none of them convert. And then she's like, what the heck? I just invested all this money and it's still not working. So does that make sense? It's like solving for the right problem is so freaking important to how you're investing. Monica says, executing thanks to your MSC framework. Thank you, Monica. I'm so glad you did that. Caitlin says, I've also thought about ads. I have an email list, freebies, etc., but not a well-designed sales funnel. Perfect. So like not the right time for ads, right? Like it's time to figure that piece out before you pay for ads, but such an easy thing to do, which is like, cool, let me throw a bunch of money at ads. And then you're like, well, I've over-invested and gotten less than stellar results. So what's my next choice? I'm going to invest again. And it gets crazy. Amy says scaling past 6 figures is an OBM. Amazing, Amy. So like coaching might be the total right fit for you then, right? Like you want to strategize, you want support, you want mindset, you want up leveling, you want execution, right? Caitlin says, and I know where my clients live, but agree a coach may be more valuable. Totally, right? So this is the thing, which is like, I want you to be spending on solving the right problems, right? Like you don't want to put ads to something that you don't know works. You know what I mean? Like as an example, just to use that, like that's when we over-invest and get subpar results and then have to keep investing. It's because we're investing in solving the wrong problem. Another thing I see people do a lot is investing in like more knowledge, not more action. Does that make sense? So they keep taking courses like I need to know something else, know something else, know something else, knowledge, instead of investing time, energy, or money in the action, in the action, in the action. So many people in this industry are buying knowledge and not using it, and that is a bad investment. In fact, I bet almost everyone on this live stream, all of you, could make your exact income goal with exactly what you know now if you put it all into action. Does anybody agree with that? Can you give me an emoji if you agree with that? You know everything you need to know right now to make the money you want to make if you go put it into action now, right? So that's why I am such a fan of one-on-one coaching and not another course, because I really believe like that support is going to help you put it into action. It's going to help you get the fuck out of your own way, and it's going to help you execute to all of the stuff that you've learned. And that's when investments start to pay off. When you're executing to the things that you learn, when you're stepping in, when you're taking action, when you're solving the right problem. Does this make sense, you guys? Amelia says, thanks. I'm doing master classes to give value and grow my Facebook group to generate interest. Beautiful. Christina says, definitely going to start questioning myself in the different paths to solution and figure out the root here. Yes, like root cause. I was talking to one of my clients about that today. We were talking about how, you know, if you have like a gut issue, you could be experiencing all this other stuff like joint pain and stuff like that. And a lot of people will solve for the joint pain instead of the root cause, like gut issue. And that's what we do in business, is we solve for all the extraneous things instead of like looking at the root cause and the one solution that solves everything, right? Monica says, guilty, scary, but exciting. I do agree. Yeah, like you know it, right? Like there's probably a temptation in you to be like, yeah, but if I just learned that one other thing, right, then everything would be easier. Then I would know, or whatever. And it's not like that. So a couple things I want to make clear is I definitely spent money before I had it in my business. I definitely invested money before I had it. To this day, if I thought an investment would solve the right problem in my business and I didn't have the cash flow to do it, I would invest in it. This is not a case for like always have the money, only invest if you have all of it and more sitting in the bank account. Like that, this is not what I'm trying to say. I really do believe that you 100% have to spend money to make money. I think this online business world is easier than business has ever been. And I think we are at such a beautiful time. Like I love that we don't have to do the stuff I was telling you my grandfather had to do, like go to the bank, take out the loan, work our asses off for years. But it also ain't free, right? Like if you want to be making 6-figure months, multiple 6-figure years, whatever, investment is a non-negotiable. It's absolutely required of you. So we don't want to be scared of it, but we want to spend an extensive amount of time making sure we're making the right ones and that we're solving the right problems, right? So I think people go either way in our industry, which is like they either like recklessly invest and they end up again doing that thing, which I said is like the biggest secret, which is like making a lot but not keeping a lot, or they completely underinvest and they're like, why aren't my results showing up? Like, I want to be able to DIY this whole thing and I'm not seeing the results. I want to make a case for finding that middle ground, which is like we do not recklessly invest, but we do take belief-oriented investments that solve the right problems in our business. Does that make sense? That has to happen for you to grow a successful and sustainable business. And the way to do that is to make sure your investment solves the right problem. And the second way to do that is to actually look at your expenses. It's revolutionary, right? Listen, I know I'm not telling you something you guys don't know, that you have to look at your expenses, right? But I really do think that it kind of, the pendulum swings. We're either obsessively looking at them and like, feeling like we can never invest in anything, or we're never looking at them until it comes to like, end of the month and like freaking out and then hiding our heads in the ground. I want you to know your expenses in your business, whether they're $10 a month because you've invested in your first little bit of automation, or they're $10,000 a month. Like, I want you to be intimately familiar with what your expenses are in your business, because that will dictate your results and bottom line just as much as the cash you're bringing in, right? So often we're looking at revenue, cash, what are we creating? What are we creating? But if we're not looking at how we're creating it, how it's getting there, what expenses are associated with that, we're not actually getting a full picture. And again, we're going to be in that position where we're maybe like making 10, 20, 30K a month and we're taking home like 1 or 2K. Like, no, thank you. That has to stop in our industry. I want to take a stand for women making money, but I really want to take a stand for women keeping their money, right? Christina says, yes, solve downstream when we could totally stop it upstream. Absolutely. Solve downstream when we could stop it upstream. I love that. Yes, exactly. Exactly. So I want to know, how often do you guys look at your expenses? Give me your honest answer. Drop it in the comments. How often do you actually look at your expenses in your business? I would say I look at mine probably 1 to 2 times a week right now. I want to know, how often do you look at expenses in your business? Okay. The reason that's so important is because the more acquainted you are with that, the more you can figure out like what makes sense for you. So again, like if something really solves the right problem for you, even if you don't have the cash flow, like it may still be a good investment. I'm not trying to say like, look at your expenses and only spend what you have. However, what I do want to say is that can be a guide, right? If you're already at a really high percentage of expenses and you want to make an investment, you might have to figure out how to cut some of those back so you can make that investment. Cool? Doesn't mean you can't make the investment. It doesn't mean you shouldn't. It doesn't mean you need all the cash there for it. But it means that you can make moves here, right? So if I want to make a huge investment, I might have to look at, cool, like what are my recurring expenses that I can really cut down, right? Melissa says twice a year. Got to up that, right? And Caitlin says week to week, then month over month. Beautiful. Shannon says I use You Need a Budget and have to look at my bank account transactions and expenses every other day. Love it. So good. I also use a thing called Digit, which it like saves for you and does some other stuff. But one thing I love about it is that it texts you your balance every day. So that's something that's really useful to just get like acquainted with money in that way, right? But like if you need something like what's it called? You Need a Budget. If you need something like You Need a Budget or Digit or whatever to like be in your face and reminding you of that, that's like a really good way to start, because then you can start coming from that empowered, informed place instead of feeling like, I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to do it. Okay, we'll see what happens. Like, I want you to feel like, no, this is a yes for me. This is the right thing. Like, yes, I might need to move around some money. Yes, I might need to move around some other expenses, but this investment solves the right problem for me. And so I'm making it, right? So a lot of people, they're talking, like their gross, they're not talking take home or bottom line. And so that's something I really want you to pay attention to. I'd say that on any given month, I take home 60 to 85% of the money I make. So like 60 to 85%. I feel really good in that range. If I fall below 60, I'm reworking expenses for sure. One of the things I've really worked on in my business is to not have a lot of recurring expenses besides team and some tech, right? But I think that it's so easy to like overinvest in recurring expenses where like all of a sudden you are like signed up to all these tech things and automations and membership sites and all this stuff that you're like not even using, but you're paying for months and months and months and months, right? So one of the tips I would give to you, and one of the things I've really worked on, is like monitoring and trying to really bring down recurring payments in my business, again, like except for team and essential tech, because that gives me flexibility with my expenses. So right now we're doing a bunch of website updates. So I got new pictures, I'm spending on development, I'm spending on design, right? But I'm still in that 60 to 85% range. On another month where, you know, I had more expenses, I wouldn't be investing in that. Does that make sense? So it's sort of like, if you don't have a lot of recurring, then you can play with like the big projects in your business, like photo shoots, website, automation, strategy, coaching, whatever, right? But when you have too many recurring and all your recurring are getting you like 60 to 85% take home, then you don't have room for these other projects that you want to do. So you get to play with it, but 60 to 85% just works for me. I'm not saying like it has to be my recommendation, but I like that because I know when I start to fall below that, it's time to pay attention. It's time to be like, I'm either not making enough or I'm not spending appropriately, right? Melissa says, yes, I eliminated the recurring and paid upfront annually for necessities. Totally, which is a really good way to think about it too. Like, I'm going to pay upfront for this and I may not have all of the cash, but I know it's going to pay off. And then it's like off my bottom line, right? So this is stuff to think about. I want you to know your percentage. So that's why I asked you at the beginning, like what you want your take home to be. Because if you know, then you can decide, okay, like if I'm in that 60 to 85% range, what do I actually need to make? So if I'm only taking home 60 to 85% of what I generate, what do I actually need to make to hit that goal? Does that make sense? And it really helps you look at your goal in a different way, and it helps you plan for it in a different way. Because I've had so many people that get to 10K months and then they're like, that didn't feel how I thought it was going to feel because I have all these expenses that got me there, right? If you're spending 5K on ads to get to a 10K month, not that much left over for you because you're going to have other expenses necessarily too, right? We're already at 50% there. Does that make sense, you guys? So what I want you to start doing from day one in your business, this isn't like a once you start making X amount, this is like the moment you start your business is like get familiar with your expenses. Make sure your investments are solving the right problem. I literally cannot say that enough. I think that is the most important thing in the entire world. I see so many people investing in the wrong things and it breaks my heart. Make sure your investments are solving the right thing. Know your expenses intimately. Look at your percentage. And I would say like the more I grow, the more and more I focus on expense management because once you have money, it's a lot easier to spend it. You know, when you're in those first few months of your business and you're not generating a ton of cash, like a lot of times you are more thoughtful about how you're spending. But the more you're growing, and this really is a problem I see, the more people are growing, the more they're spending because you could spend endlessly in this industry. You know what I mean? Like ads, website, team, tech, strategy, like courses, whatever, like you could just never stop. And so that's how I see a lot of women getting to 20 and 30K months and barely taking any home, because the more they make, the more kind of freedom they feel to spend, and they're not paying attention to expenses. They're going, well, investment got me here, so let me just keep going, instead of let me reap the rewards of the investments I'm making, right? So I would say I want you to start from day one, but as you're growing, expense management becomes more and more and more important, because not only is it easier, but there's more money on the table. More people are going to approach you, right? Like, oh, I see that she's saying she made 30K this month. Like, let me pitch her this Facebook ad thing, or let me do this. So the more you're making, the more opportunities you're going to have to spend. And so the reason I share this is because if you can hone in on this early in your business and not wait until you're like overspending at, spending 20K a month on business expenses, which, listen, isn't bad, but it's bad if you're only making 30, right? Then you can start this habit of like wise expenditures early on, and life gets so much easier, and you actually love your business because you're taking home what you're making, right? Melissa says, I probably missed this in a different video. How does one figure out a good goal? I know what I need, I know what I want, but I also know my potential earnings. How do I balance that to find a goal? Here's what I would say, Melissa. Like, I'm a really big fan, and it's very like personality driven for me too. So you might want to feel into what's true for you. I'm a really big fan of like, pick the next small goal that feels like a stretch, right? So, like, let me think of an example. Okay, I'll tell you an example that's related to this, and then I'll give you another example. So, I was sharing with you guys in a different video that my cash received, I think it was July that I maybe used as an example, July or August, I don't remember, was like 36,000. And I think my expenditures were somewhere between 4 and 6. I just have a really bad memory. I'm not trying to be vague. I just truly have a bad memory, which is why all this shit is in spreadsheets. But I shared it in a live stream. So if you're curious, I can link that here. But I shared specifics around it. My point is, my percentage was good that month. Like, I think I was at like 85% of taking home what I made. That makes me making all that money feel really, really worth it, right? If I only took home 10 of that, I would feel differently about it. Like, not that I wouldn't still be stoked about serving my clients and showing up and whatever, but it wouldn't feel like, wow, I am in even energy exchange with my business, right? It would feel like, God, I'm giving more than I'm receiving. So that's something I want to say. But the reason I share that is because I'm going to use that 36K as an example, Melissa. It would be easy for me to be like, I want to make 100K cash month, because I do at some point. But that's too far for me. My brain is like not about it, right? My brain's like, but you have to do these 5 things and you don't want to do these 5 things. And like, what about this? And also this, and you're basically tripling and whatever. Does that make sense? So it's not a goal I don't have. It's just not my next goal, right? So I was at 36. My next goal might be 40, or it might be 45, or it might be 50, but it's got to be in that range that feels really good. I also try to do goals based on cash I want to take home, because that just works for my brain. We're like, not interested in making 50K if I'm only taking home 50% of it. I'd rather make 30 and take home 85. Does that make sense? So what I would say to you about knowing how to pick a goal / being realistic is really go for those like mini milestones. Like, maybe it's 2 clients, or maybe it's $1,000 more a month than you're making right now, or whatever. I'm just making stuff up. But feel into like, what's that next place that I can like get my brain on board with believing is possible? Because that, in my opinion, is how you create results the fastest. Like, if my goal was 100K, I would feel unmotivated in many ways, because it would feel further away, and like I didn't want to take all the steps I needed to make that happen. But if my goal is like 40, 45, I feel motivated around that. I feel excited. I feel like it's possible. I feel like it's within reach. And I'll probably get to 100K in the same time frame, if not less, if I take the mindset of like next small goal. So that really works well for me. It's how I like to goal set. It's usually what I have my clients do. So that would be my feedback around that. Cool. So let me just kind of recap for you guys. And if you're listening and you have any questions around this you want me to answer, feel free to drop them in the comments while I recap a little bit. I would love to answer any of your questions around this. So biggest secret is this idea that we're generating a lot of money, but we're not keeping a lot of money. We're spending, but we're not making it, right? We're spending on all the wrong things. We're solving the wrong problems a lot of the time. We want to get back to that place where we're about investing, but we're about making the right investments and not all the investments. I want to make sure you're looking at your expenses. I want to make sure you're absolutely not scared of investing and you're not waiting until you have all the cash sitting in the bank. But at the same time, you're strategic and clear about the right investments for you. I want you to pay attention to your bottom line. I want you to know your take-home goal, your percentage. Again, mine's anywhere from 60 to 85. That feels really good for me. And I want you to know that the more you grow, the more you're going to have to focus on expense management. The more chance you have to spend, the easier it's going to be to do it. And the way you're going to create sustainability and feel like you're in even energy exchange with your business is to not do that, right? So I really hope that was helpful. Again, I know this is not like the sexiest topic ever, and I'm certainly not making a case against investment. But what I'm making a case for is women not only making money, but enjoying their money and keeping their money, because that is truly how this whole a lit up life thing works, is when you feel like you're lit up and in even energy exchange with your business, when you feel like you're hustling and spending and never reaping the rewards from that, you are not lit up in your business. You are not lit up in your life. And so that's why this topic is important to me, because I want your business to give you as much as you give it. And that means taking home your money, right? So if you guys have questions around this, feel free to drop them. I will check back in here. If you're watching the replay and you have questions, let me know. And I want to know, like, what's your commitment around this? Are you maybe going to rework some of your expenses? Are you going to maybe look at your expenses more? Like, what commitment do you want to make sure you get to keep and enjoy your money? Tell me in the comments. I would love to know. Thank you guys for joining me, and I hope you have a beautiful week. Love y'all. Bye.